right now. If you're reading One Piece, you're reading the final One Piece saga. The one that Oda has been leading up to for 25 years. The one that he said was always planned to be the high point of the series. And I thought this is the perfect time to make a One Piece predictions video. Because before Oda announced that this is going to be the final saga, every prediction the One Piece series would make, it all seemed kind of distant. We knew we will eventually go to Elbaf, we knew we will eventually meet Vegapunk, but all these things happen at some point. Some far out point in the future. But now, if you think that something is going to happen, it has to happen in this saga. Another reason I wanted to start making One Piece predictions is, the larger One Piece community, I think we all felt that Wano was a bit of a letdown. And honestly, everything in the New World is not the greatest One Piece ever was, with Whole Cake Island kind of like the gem in the middle. But just the last 2 issues after the time skip, it proved to me that Oda still got it. In his veins there's still the same blood as the guy who created great arcs like Alabasta or the Nico Robin arc. And honestly, 2 issues were enough. There is a big Reddit thread listing all the unresolved issues of Wano. And I thought when Oda introduced an Admiral and Shank both at Wano, this is going to be the same thing. He's going to put in too many ideas and then not have enough time to resolve them all. But no. The story is resolved and everything he introduced played a pivotal role in it. It all comes together to create the same emotional impact that Oda was always capable of. I think One Piece theorists, they view One Piece too logically. I'm going to explain. Oda, with all his lore, with all his foreshadowing, Oda is a storyteller first. His primary motivation is always to entertain and make you enjoy the story. One Piece theorists, they want Oda to have a pattern. They want to have some logic between it, but sometimes there just is no pattern behind it. The pattern you see, it's just Oda reusing ideas. For instance, how many times does a Straw Hat seemingly betray Luffy to join his older crew, only to then find Face and Luffy again? It happened with Nami, it happened with Robin, and it happened with Sanji. Now, did you think Oda did it to draw parallels between all of these 3 stories? Or did you notice that these stories always tend to be the best One Piece stories? And so he's not ashamed of reusing an idea. Like right after the time skip, after Admiral Greenbull was defeated, there were so many videos about power scaling. Like who is stronger than who, like how can Momonosuke be stronger than an admiral, and how could Shanks have done this? Since when does Conqueror's Haki have that kind of power? And I think you're looking at this too rationally. I think you're looking at this as if these were real people who actually have these powers. Try to look at this from a storyteller's point of view. The point of Momonosuke defeating an admiral, it was to say that he's now mature enough to lead the country, that the Straw Hats can leave knowing that Wano is safe. And also, since when can Conqueror's Haki do this, like attack someone from far away? Yes, it is an OP power to have, but it's there to establish that Shanks and Luffy know about each other's presence, and they both agree that they will meet again when we're finally at the final island and when they finally can claim One Piece. Oda is always more beholden to write a good story than he is to power scales or to foreshadowing or to lore or to anything else. And I believe that's a good thing. I believe that's the reason why we love One Piece. It's a rich world full of magic and different creatures and superpower, but a good story always comes first. So for my predictions, I'm going to look at what would, in my mind, make for the best story. And then when One Piece is over, I can make a video about was I correct? And if I wasn't, then I can say, did Oda come up with something better in this case? For me, this is like a storytelling exercise. Number 1. Blackbeard can have as many devil fruit powers as he wants. I said this series are what I would write as a storyteller, but this one is an exception. This is not speculation, this is something that I know. I know this is correct, and I know that all the other One Piece series are wrong. Ever since we learned that Blackbeard can eat a second devil fruit, we've all been wondering, how far up does the scale go? Can he eat 3 different devil fruits? Can he eat 10? But there are a bunch of theories like Blackbeard has 2 souls in one body, or Blackbeard is an octopus and that equates to 3 devil fruits. anything like that. All of them assuming that Blackbeard couldn't possibly have hundreds of devil fruit powers. There is a writing rule that is rarely discussed, but it's something that Oda lives by, and something you could always predict to be happen with 100% accuracy. And that is, Oda doesn't disappoint. Remember in Skypiea? Remember when we first met Enel's power? I thought to myself, okay, they clearly can't fight against someone who can just do that. He knows what you're doing, and he can summon this beam from the sky out of nowhere. I mean, surely it's going the way of he has a machine that does that for him, and in the final fight they will be fighting for the controls of that machine. But they're not going to fight someone who can just do that with his body. But no, Enel could just do that with his devil fruit. When they were fleeing Whole Cake Island and the entire army, I thought, okay, it's clearly going the way that like Sanji bakes a cake for Big Mom, and either he says, I give you the cake in exchange for letting my friends go, or Big Mom is so overwhelmed by how delicious this cake is that she just lets them go voluntarily. But no, Oda never takes the easy way out. Oda never does something that would be less dramatic or smaller than what he promised. One of the many talents that Oda has is that he's incredibly good at convincing you that there is no way our heroes are going to win. The bad guys are too OP. They can't win in a one-on-one fight. They have to run away. Even the most recent arc, even in the Wano arc, people were saying, Luffy can't defeat Kaito yet. It's too early, he is not ready, the raid will fail. But then when he does win at the end, it will seem completely natural. He doesn't seem like a Mary Sue, it doesn't seem like a Deus Ex Machina, it seems like a natural progression of the story. And then everybody has forgotten that they thought before that this would be impossible. And this is the same situation with Blackbeard. Everybody believes he couldn't possibly have hundreds of devil fruits, that would be too OP. But I'm telling you, when they reveal Blackbeard's powers and how they work, they're going to reveal that he can eat as many devil fruits as he wants. I think this might be the reason that Haki got introduced in the first place. Remember, it was in the same arc that we learned that Haki can defeat Logia powers. Before that, every Logia had a different weakness unique to itself. For Crocodile it was water, for Enel it was rubber, and so on. But I think Oda realized that this wouldn't work if someone has 20 different Logia abilities he can switch between. Maybe that's why he introduced Armament Haki. And you can even imagine a scene where all of Blackbeard's underlings have devil fruit powers, and he kills his own crew so that he can have their powers too. I mean, this is a common shonen trope. The big bad eats his own underlings so that he can become even stronger. And it would make the perfect contrast to Luffy, because Luffy would do the opposite. He would risk his own life to save the one of his friends, and never kill them for selfish means. Number 2. Blackbeard will take over the Marines. This wasn't foreshadowed anywhere. It's not even that I believe that this would make a particularly good story. It's just that the alternative is so difficult to write. Right now we have 3 factions for the final war. The Straw Hats, the Marines, and Blackbeard. And each faction is enemies with the other 2 factions. I think Blackbeard will take over the Marines just because 3-way fights are so difficult to write. Each person can just punch one person at a time. If you ever played a 3-player board game, you know what I'm talking about. It's very hard to make a 3-player game that rewards skill. If you play 3-player chess, for example, it always boils down to 2 players teaming up against 1 player, and after that player is defeated, then they fight it out amongst themselves. Therefore I believe that Oda will make it a 2-faction fight, and Blackbeard will take over the Marines. How does he do that? I don't know. Maybe he's a Tenryubito. There is a theory out there that Tenryubito are all immortal, and if that's the case, this would work very well with my other theories. Or maybe this is to draw an ideological contrast between the pirates and the world government. The pirates love freedom, and Luffy wants to be the pirate king because the pirate king is the freest person in the world. The world government hates freedom, and maybe they hate freedom so much that they don't even care who gives the orders. If Blackbeard takes over the government, they all just fall in line, with no loyalty whatsoever to the previous system. Number 3. Who or what is Zebek? I mean, Zebek was a mystery to me. From a narrative point of view, I couldn't figure out what his purpose was. I mean, why would Oda introduce another pirate and another era like this late into the game? And why would he be this prominent? So prominent that almost all of the Yonko were once part of Zebek's crew. But still there is so much mystery around him. For instance, we don't know exactly what happened at God Valley. It has to be very important for the final arc. But I think I figured it out. Zebek is there, so there is another tier of pirates. Another level that is beyond the Yonko level. Think back to when Luffy first defeated Crocodile. If you start reading One Piece now, or even if you start reading in the last 10 years or so, you probably had parts of the story spoiled for you. But when Luffy first defeated one of the Shichibukai, this was a big deal. The Shichibukai were propped up as the reason that pirates who enter the Grand Line don't come back. And they were the reason that only the bravest pirates ever dare set foot in the Grand Line. When Luffy defeated Sir Crocodile, he upset the world order as we knew it. And then he defeated a second Shichibukai. I mean, here's the thing. It was still a big deal when we met the other warlords, don't get me wrong. But they're still in the same category as Crocodile. Even if you say, okay, the other Shichibukai is so much stronger than Crocodile is. Even if you say that, once he defeated the first one, you kind of assume that the logical next step is for him to defeat every other one as well. And the same thing is true for Blackbeard. I mean, we all know the fight with Blackbeard will be bigger and more epic than any other One Piece fight ever. But what category is Blackbeard in? Yonko. Even if you say, okay, Blackbeard is so much stronger than the other Yonko, he's still in the same category as them. And once he defeated Kaido and Big Mom, it's not as much of a big deal to defeat another Yonko. And this is where Zebek comes in. I believe that A, Zebek will return, and B, that he never lost to Gold Roger. This was all lies. He actually defeated Garp and Roger, but for some reason he chose to wait for his return. Gold Roger in the whole series is hyped up as this pinnacle of what a pirate can be. From the very first chapter, from the opening of the anime, Gold Roger is the person who created the biggest treasure that everybody's trying to find. And for the end of the story to have the most impact, to have Luffy become the most important, it's not enough that he just finds the One Piece. He has to somehow surpass Gold Roger. One way to do it would be with a fight, but Gold Roger is already dead, so you can't have that. But what if there was someone that even Gold Roger couldn't defeat? Someone that when they fought, when Gold Roger had Garp on his side, they didn't stand a chance against this person. All they could do was to convince him somehow to leave the world alone for about 40 years or so. I don't know how Zebek will return, but it must somehow tie to Blackbeard. Either Blackbeard is somehow Zebek reincarnated, or Zebek is just part of Blackbeard's crew. And it's to show how powerful Blackbeard is. That the biggest pirate ever, the man who defeated Gold Roger, is just one of his underlings. But I believe Blackbeard being Zebek is more likely. If the Tenryubito are immortal, then this would be a way for Blackbeard to be the returned Zebek. Okay, maybe the reason he needed to be reincarnated was that Roger and Garp told him about the Shadow Fruit, or they told him about a way that he can have multiple Devil Fruit powers at once. Maybe that's why the fruit was so important for him, that he would kill for it. Or maybe the reason that Blackbeard doesn't sleep is because he's like Tyler Durden. Whenever Marshall D. Teach goes to sleep, Zebek takes over his body. Number 4. Brook used to be part of Zebek's crew. This is not based on any kind of foreshadowing at all. It's just, I really hope that that's the case, because my favorite stories are always the ones where the loyalty of a Straw Hat is in question because their old crew or their old association wants them back. I hope Oda does it again for the biggest and final arc. And Brook would be the only one that made sense. I mean, technically the timeline isn't exactly perfect. Brook's crew all died 50 years ago, and Zebek's crew, their era was 40 years ago. But I think Oda can make it work. Or better yet, the area where Oda makes the most mistakes are whenever it comes to exact dates. For instance, Crocus tells us exactly that he never left his post for 50 years. But then later we hear that Crocus was part of Gold Roger's crew, and Gold Roger sailed 20 years ago. And Crocus couldn't have left his post, because why did he return? If this was even an option, to leave Laboom alone for about 2 years or so. Also, during the Skypiea saga, we hear that Marwan Lowland was one of the first people to ever set sail on the Grand Line, that he discovered a lot of the islands. and he was supposed to do it 400 years ago. But then later we hear that the seat of the world government was placed right there in the middle of the Grand Line, and they did it 1,000 years ago. So Oda is not great with numbers and dates when it comes to things, but I believe he can make it work that Brook was at one point part of Zabek's crew. There is another One Piece theory, that Brook's power, when he awakens his devil fruit, he can bring at least one person back from the dead, and that might be the way they bring Zabek back. Number 5. How do all of the Straw Hat's dreams come true? Now besides finding One Piece, we still have all the dreams of the other crew members. When they first set sail on the Grand Line, each one of them had their own dream to follow. And it wouldn't be right that everybody forgets their own dreams just so that Luffy can have his own. Yes, Luffy wants to be Pirate King, but he also cares deeply for his friends. And he was willing to risk his life and risk his dream, not just for his friends but for a complete stranger. Maybe the message at the end will be that not everybody can get everything they want, or it doesn't matter if you actually achieve your dreams as long as you just keep going. But I don't think that message is very Oda-esque. As I said before, Oda doesn't disappoint. So how can we make it that Luffy finds the One Piece and also every Straw Hat member gets their dreams fulfilled? I think at the end there will be a scavenger hunt. I think it was almost too easy for them to get Big Mom's pornoglyph. I mean, are you really telling me that none of Kaido's agents, are you telling me none of them could sneak in and do exactly what Brook did? And also the last chapters clearly imply that Luffy is going to meet Shanks at the place where One Piece is. So Shanks must have all 4 pornoglyphs. What I believe is going to happen is that they reach Laugh Tale, and then they meet Shanks, and he tells them, no, that's not good enough. Many people have reached Laugh Tale. You need, let's say, 7 special items to unlock the One Piece. And then the Straw Hat crew would split up again, and each one of them goes after one piece of the puzzle. Zoro will have his final battle with Mihawk, Usopp will go to Elbaf, Sanji will find the All Blue, Nami is going to go to God Valley because, remember, she wants to draw the world map. And God Valley is an island that doesn't show up on any world map, so Nami goes there. Chopper finds his medicine. Robin finds the final pornoglyph. Frankie meets Vegapunk. Brook meets Laboom, and I don't know what Jinbei and Yamato are going to do. But I'm sure Oda will come up with something. And the 6th and final theory, what is One Piece? This is maybe the raison d'etre for this manga. The quintessential mystery of One Piece. What exactly is One Piece? Oda has said time and time and again that One Piece is not something ethereal like the friends you meet along the way or the adventure it takes to get there or something like that. One Piece is a real object. But I do believe that it was his original intention, that One Piece is just something symbolic. But then he realized that everybody has figured this out. This would be the first thing that comes into your mind once you hear a story about a big treasure, where nobody knows what it is. Remember one of the earliest One Piece arcs? It was with Buggy, and the message of the story was that treasure is not what is the most valuable in gold or something. It is what you treasure the most. And for Luffy, his hat was his biggest treasure. Now the straw hat has meaning for the fate of the world, that Emu has a giant straw hat in his drawer or something. But I think the original purpose of the straw hat was that straw is literally the cheapest thing you can make a hat out of. But for Luffy, this hat is the most important thing. So if that's Oda's original intention, but he changed his mind since then, it has to be a tangible object, but it has to be something that conveys the same message as the friends you meet along the way. Also, it has to be something that can only happen at a specific point in time. Roger said that he was too early, but we don't know what that means yet. Also, it has to be something that is related to the 100 years of Void Century. So putting all of this together, I believe that the One Piece is a spaceship. Why would this work? It's a specific point in time because every couple of years or so, every 1,000 years, the stars align in a way that you can travel between the stars if you just have a spaceship. And the last time that was true was during the Void Century. This would be a way to draw a contrast between the philosophy of Luffy and the philosophy of the world government. For Luffy, all this spaceship represents is that there is another adventure, that there is another road ahead, that after becoming Pirate King, there is still something to dream towards. But for the world government, specifically for the Tenryubito, who hate the rest of the world, I think the spaceship will work the same way that Enel's spaceship did. Enel could go to the moon, but he could also use it to destroy the world. And the world government is going to do the exact same thing as Enel. Use the spaceship to get riches for themselves on other planets, and the world government tries to destroy the world because they hate the world. They see everybody who's not a world aristocrat as a pest, as a nuisance to the world. And this will be the final fight. Freedom versus oppression. Luffy, someone who's willing to risk his life for people who he just met, versus the world government, which have been taken over by Blackbeard, who only care about themselves and see the rest of the world with disdain. And that's my final One Piece theory.